punches is thrown into your frontless. Oodles and noodles, bang bullets at suckers' noodles. Last album voodoo, prove that we was fucking brutal. I'm talking crazy, half past the clock is cuckoo. This is Michael Azarad, editor-in-chief of the Talkhouse, and welcome to the Talkhouse Music Podcast. A magnificent ball of intelligence and righteous anger, Run the Jewels is one of the most exciting and intense things in hip-hop. Rappers LP and Killer Mike are hip-hop veterans who combine to make something even greater than the sum of their parts. And LP is not only half of Run the Jewels, he's also one of the best, most distinctive producers and beatmakers in the game. Their widely acclaimed second album, Run the Jewels 2, came out in October of 2014, and recently the super duo released Meow the Jewels, a crowd-funded remix version of the album, featuring samples of cats, fitting for a couple of artists with 9 creative lives. And that was a hit too. Boots suddenly hit the mainstream radar screen for his work on Beyoncé's blockbuster self-titled 2013 album. He went on to do great work with FKA Twigs and Run the Jewels. Boots is a songwriter and producer, a rapper and singer, and a musician in his own right, with his debut album Aquaria out on November 13th, 2015. Oh yeah, and he's also a filmmaker, directing and starring in the 30-minute film Motorcycle Jesus earlier this year. And he's also written some great pieces for the Talkhouse. Boots is opening for Run the Jewels on their epic-length international tour, so we figured that was a great opportunity for him and LP to sit down and talk about lots of things. Their jazz musician dads, the creative value of sampling, drugs and music, the internet's fascination with cats, and even their doomsday scenarios. We also find out how Boots got his nickname, and the answer will amaze you. Boots and LP recorded this conversation on tour, backstage at Cain's Ballroom in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's not a super high-fidelity recording, and it was kind of noisy in there, but it sure was an interesting conversation. And away we go, Boots and LP on the Talkhouse Music Podcast. I'm just taking vacations and tell them fuck them, I never loved them in salutations.
So we're doing this for Talkhouse. I'm Boots.
I'm LP. You definitely wear boots all the time.
I do.
Is that something that you did before you named yourself Boots, or is that something that you just felt obligated to do after your name was Boots?
No, it's something that I've always done. It's something I've done since I was a kid. Like my dad, he grew up playing in different assorted cover bands, bar bands type things.
What did he play?
He's a jazz bassist.
Bassist. My dad was a jazz pianist, and he played in shitty restaurants and crappy bars, and played for years and years and years. And
did your dad grow up in New York?
No, my dad grew up in Boston, and then he was in the Army, and he was stationed in New York, and then he just stayed, and so yeah, that's how that went.
Yeah, my dad grew up in Brooklyn, actually.
Yeah.
And my mom, too.
My mother was a New Yorker. My mother was from New York. Her actually 10th generation, like, it's the whole, you know.
I've got an ill gift for you, by the way. It's this 10 DVD series, The History of New York, from day one till present.
I mean, we all know the story. Theodore, New York, first found New York in a rowboat. No one was on it. It was empty. And he was like, this would be the perfect place for white people to build a city. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's how that went down. Yeah. But yeah, so, but like, did you used to go watch your dad play?
Yeah, I would watch him play, and he would always wear those Beatle boots.
The Beatle boots?
Yeah, but during the day he would rock sneakers and shit, but anytime he went to go perform,
nighttime cam.
He put the fucking John Lennon boots on.
What boots, or what do those look like?
They're patent leather, I think, and they got the Cuban heel.
High boots?
Depends. Sometimes it's a inch heel, sometimes it's a 2-inch heel.
No, I mean like up the leg?
No, like ankle boots.
Oh, those are considered boots, that's right. If they reach your ankle.
Yeah.
But those high tops aren't considered boots. Maybe they should be. He was wearing leather high tops, basically. Yeah. But did you ever watch him in restaurants, or I mean in bars and clubs? But like I have these distinct memories of going to see my dad play in like restaurants. I would always watch him, you know, part of it would be watching his like weekly gig at at the restaurant or whatever. I remember it definitely being something that simultaneously felt tough because you knew that this wasn't a real crowd, and you knew that he was performing and he was into it. So that was a little tough. But it also at the same time made me really it always stuck with me from watching him do that and knowing that he lived for that shit. Mm-hmm. Like he really did on the low, even though he wouldn't really admit it. Like I think my father lived for that. And even in that environment, you know? Yeah. So it always sticks with me, something I always try and remember because whenever you perform live, you know, whenever you're on a tour or whatever, whenever you're getting a chance to be on stage and do what you do, and some people are there to see you and to not eat a meal, yeah, you know, then you're doing that. Then you know, that's great. But at the same time, we should probably all be in our minds able to be happy just doing the music. Yeah. Even because when that time comes and we're not able to really perform like that, or it's not really like, you know, it's just an interesting thing. I always thought to myself, like, okay, like he loves this, so I should make sure that I always love this.
Well, performing in front of people, I feel, is the only place that you can truly be rewarded for making music or
and see an immediate reaction.
Yeah, it's the only place in the world that does it.
It's true. It's definitely true. And it's also like, you know, a very real response to your music. If I'm here, how do I make sure that these people have a good time, that they enjoy watching the show? And that's what ends up making you get a good show under your belt. Like, I think that the people who are, you know, get addicted to that, I'm addicted to that feeling, you know, of knowing that, like, you just destroyed the place.
Yeah, and you guys do. You guys have been.
Likewise. But, you know, it wasn't always like that, you know, had to like work to get to that point to understand what it was about. But I think I'm gonna get my dad's. I think my father has retired officially from music years ago, like maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I think he just decided that he was done with it. Right. Which is a little sad, but you know, I guess I understand to a degree. But he has this piano. He has this baby grand piano that I'm gonna grab.
What color is it?
It's brown.
My grandma, when she passed, she had this.
I think it's brown.
Yeah, she had a really strange. It was white, but she painted it black, or had it painted black.
Really?
Yeah, my grandma used to paint, and my grandma actually is one of the biggest reasons why I'm into music as much as I am, outside of seeing it. But she got this dude who did these sad ass clown paintings in Miami. They were all sad clowns, and she bought one, and when the guy died, most of his work became priceless. And after she passed away, there was this painting in her apartment of the clown, and a collector came to see it. He said it's not an original. The nose has been painted red.
She painted it red?
I guess she thought it wasn't.
I mean, you know, once you buy the art, I guess it's yours.
That's how she felt about her shit, man.
So this is an interesting question. You're both very You're both very exacting about the sonics of your recordings. How do you deal with the limitations of live sound? That's actually pretty interesting. You're kind of dealing with that right now.
There's a certain part of my brain that right now I have to let go of just being used to the way that it sounds on the record.
Well, because you could have come with backing tracks and you could have played your shit, but you decided to recreate it live and do something different, which I really like about your show. And it's one of the things that I loved doing with a band. That was one of the reasons why I liked bringing Torben Wilder, you know, but I think it's cool, though, because people come to see the show, and I always love the fact that their live albums sounded different than the regular album.
That's how I feel, too. I feel that sometimes you always have to recognize with a live version it's not always going to be the same. And I'm working, you know, night by night. We're figuring out little ways to...
And sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's like, you know, sometimes
it's more free.
Yeah, or you just come up with a stripped-down sound that is more, you know, you had to kind of go out of your way to recreate. So... Yeah. I don't really have that issue too much because basically we're rocking off of our music, you know, but we go all out and try and really give a good vocal performance, and
Well, I've seen both, where I've seen hip hop shows where it just doesn't come off with the band.
Yeah, I think it's a crutch sometimes. I think that sometimes people think that they have to do it just to step to that next level, and sometimes it is really another leap. Sometimes it really works. But Run DMC didn't have to do it.
When I saw Tribe, I saw the last show at Madison Square Garden, or opening for Ye, and they just came out and rocked it on their tracks, and the whole place was
right.
shaking.
Because for the music that like hip hop music and the art of sampling and it's beautiful in many ways, not because of it's beautiful because of the actual sound.
Yeah.
Like the actual sound is unique and special. You can't find another form of music where sampling is played as big a part in that music, and the combining of different drum machines and different.
You used to sample off records?
Me?
Yeah, straight up off records?
Yeah, all the time, man. All my first records were samples. All my major, first albums were all sample driven.
Recording the sample into the MPC, or you were?
Nah, it was. I had an EPS 16 Plus, which was an Sonic sampler. I have it still, the one in my studio.
Yeah.
Not that exact one. It's on
Could
my
you do that in the Triton
fourth
too?
or something. Yeah, I've used a bunch of shit, but for the most part, I was for Fun Crusher and for Fantastic Damage. Those two were basically made on a sampler.
And you can feel it, especially on that, because I feel like, especially on those two records, you feel like you're in the room getting banged around.
Yeah.
And it might just be the way that those things sound, or the way that those come out of.
Yeah. But I mean, also, like, I was doing it in a different way, I think. I was chopping it up so much, and it was because it was a keyboard. I was just using samples as sounds, and you're not going to find a whole bunch of loops in my career. You're not going to just, earlier you go, the more you will. But as I started to get further and further into it, I wanted to try different ways to do it. And also, sampling is not easy to do.
Well, you're one of the only, if not the only, producer I've ever felt really concentrates on making their drums always feel or sound like they're live. They're performed. Every time I listen to a jam, it feels like they were performed in some way, and it could be because it always feels like there's a fill, or there's something happening that you don't see coming, and it's not the same one always. And if it is, it's a hook fill,
I mean, I try and make it interesting. I mean, I've always been, drumming is an interesting and important thing. I think that people have to have their own sort of approach to it,
And you create all your own fills.
Yeah, but it changes, it alters. Sometimes we do them live. Sometimes we do those fills live. Like I'll have Taco, aka Little Shalimar, like play live fills or whatever, and we'll patch them in over sort of
flip them inside out.
Yeah. But plenty of times throughout my career, it's been about sampling fills. And that's always been fun, because a lot of times you sample a fill and you throw it in at a rhythm that it wasn't originally supposed to be in, and you get a result, and you can chop that result, and then
So that's one of my favorite things to do, and it's just a little secret if I'm stuck sometimes. Not secret for you, but just a secret about how I work. If I'm stuck and I know I want to work on something, or I want to make something, I will put in just a bunch of my favorite drums or favorite samples, and I'll just start picking things that I like.
Absolutely, man. And that's one of the cool things too about samples, is that you're sampling. I don't know. You're sampling ideas to a degree. It's all inspiration. That's the whole point. It's just like you're constantly in inspiration mode when you do that, or searching for it.
Yeah, and I try now, the same way that you do, to record live sound to avoid going through other things that people have recorded on, or sometimes I do, and other times I prefer to have something that it was played in the place that I was, or during the vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get the fuck back into that studio, though.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much. I'm fucking ready for that.
You and me both, man. So what are some other art forms that influence what you do and how you think about music, art?
None. No other art form. I refuse to witness or pay attention to any other art form except rap.
Except rap.
Nah, I don't know. Everything, man. We're all
What's
always.
your favorite movie?
That's what's my favorite movie? Shit. That's a really good question. Really don't. I mean, years ago I would have said Blade Runner right off the bat. Director's cut, Blade Runner. But and that's still probably up there. That may be my favorite movie.
Yeah. 2001: Space Odyssey is mine, and it's informed very many things about the way I do art and films or way I approach anything. Is because of that.
I was wondering why you always had that black obelisk floating behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all have them in our hands now, by the way.
Yeah. The obelisk ripoff. The shitty version of the obelisk. That's basically, a lot of people don't realize that 2001 was just predicting the iPhone 1 billion.
Well, that's a funny question. For me, that's a chicken or the egg question, because you think about it and it's, okay, well, Steve Jobs was how old when he saw this movie, and did Stanley Kubrick just predict the future, or did Steve Jobs say, I'm going to make that thing, or is it hand in hand?
But what I'm saying is that he was actually the obelisk, right?
The monolith.
The monolith, excuse me. I was saying obelisk.
That's the Washington Monument, it's an obelisk.
Got it. The monolith. What I'm saying is that maybe, has it ever occurred to anybody that was actually just a cell phone from the future? Like, literally the iPhone 1 billion.
Just staring into it.
I think that's what the iPhone eventually looks like when we just evolve.
I feel like we're gonna get the remastered version of 2001: Space Odyssey, and every time you see that in the film, you're just gonna see an iPhone now. George Lucas will probably spearhead it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's George Lucas, then it's an iPhone sitting on a duck that's eating a little pigeon that's farting, and there's a spaceship in the background.
Yeah.
What about drugs? There's a question about drugs and how much drugs play a role in your music.
Drugs. Just depends on the intake.
Yeah, and the moment, right? Yeah, I'm not mad at drugs. I mean, there are reasons to be mad at certain drugs for sure, but I think that the occasional mushroom or joint or daily, whatever you want to. You say tomato, I say tomato. I think it can be good if you lean towards being able to handle that type of thing.
Yeah, I think any issues I ever had with drugs in the past wasn't due to overconsumption, but it was due to like when I was younger, if I got too high and it freaked out. And I think that it had more to do with where I was in my life.
Everyone goes through that. That's called the pain cave.
Yeah.
That's when you first encounter the pain cave.
Realize that you're not invincible.
No, and you're stuck in the pain cave for as long as it will be, and then it will release you. That's right. And everyone goes through that period. Not everyone, but a lot of people go through that period where they first encounter the bad high. Mm-hmm. I stepped away from smoking weed for
Me too.
Years.
Me too.
Years. And I'm glad it's back. I'm glad I have to blame Killer Mike for that one a little bit.
When I first started smoking again, and then I tried mushrooms, I was afraid the first time. Since then, because oh my God, what if that thing happens? And a friend just said to me, he goes, "No, it's not gonna happen. You're good." And the second he said that, I go, "All right, I am."
My answer to anybody asking about drug use and creativity or whatever is simply like, if you're not able to do the drugs, it doesn't matter if you're trying to make some music or not. You have to be in a good place to do a psychedelic drug. Mm-hmm. You have to be relatively stable in your head.
And relatively responsible in your life, I think.
Yeah, like you can't have any crazy shit hanging over your head and then go do drugs in the woods for 3 days, tripping out, because you will encounter that crazy shit that you haven't dealt with.
That's people searching for ghosts, though, because they think that, maybe something else will happen then.
Who make you look, who make you talk, who put your love in the cup? I'll mix you up, I'll let you off, I'll make your heart stop. Nobody lets you leave him alone. Ain't nobody know the love from the phone. Holy, holy, holy water. You can look away. Holy, holy, holy water. Rain's getting pride off, kings finna die off.
Meow the Jewels.
Meow the Jewels.
The internet has an obsession with cats.
Oh.
The internet loves
This is
fucking cats.
are you quoting this?
No. I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on my segues.
Got you.
Why do you think the internet loves cats so goddamn much?
What? I don't know.
Because I love
They're
cats.
pretty photogenic. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've noticed. Cats are pretty cute. And when they're ridiculous, they're amazing too.
Your Twitter picture is a cat. That's your cat.
That's not my cat.
That's not your cat? That's not the beast?
No.
I always thought it was. I always thought it was the memorial picture you had for the beast.
Nope. The memorial picture is just a picture of her dead corpse.
No.
That's why I haven't posted it. It's too disturbing.
Whatever. Meow the Jewels. Everybody loves it.
Meow the Jewels. Meow the Jewels. I'm glad that it's out. I'm glad that it's I'm glad that it is what it is. I'm glad I'm never going to do anything like that again. And yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I was psyched to be able to drop that.
Outside of hip hop, I know that you listen to everything. I listen to everything.
Yeah.
I know that you love scores. I know that you love classical composers. I know that you love jazz musicians and artists.
Here and there.
You showed me a number of incredible pieces that I had not heard previously. You introduced me to Gang of Four.
Yeah.
You introduced me to The Art of Love. Art of Noise. But what's the band?
Moments in Love.
Moments in Love.
That's the
Art of
song.
Noise.
Yeah,
That's what it is. But there's all this music that you love.
Well, I mean, but like, conversely, you produced one of the biggest R&B records of the last several years, but your music is obviously influenced by, much more than just that genre.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me. The interesting thing to me was to see the direction that your record took, because I kind of heard it in stages.
Yeah, you did.
And worked on some of it with you, which was very fun. And I wish I could have had the time to do more, but we'll do that next round. And yeah, it's ill. It's like, influence is interesting to me, because you almost, every time you make a record, you're almost wondering what it is that you're, what am I being influenced by right now? What am I interested in right now? Like, what's sort of like, what of the pantheon of music that I like am I thinking about right now? And I always do that. And I think that that's maybe because I did start with sampling, so I would just pull records, and so I associate production with different moments and times and things, depending on the record, and or maybe it's just that's a normal question. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that it informs what we do is the things that we listen to outside of whatever classified genre people think that we are.
Do you openly admit your influences? Do you think that you know them enough right now that you could even say if there was an influence on that record, or if there's a jam that had an influence from something that you know specifically?
Sure. I feel like the energy of Cure came from watching you and Run the Jewels perform live.
Or
I feel that the energy and how hype it felt to see something that fast, because I feel that I have really steady blood pressure sometimes, so I think that causes me to fall into slower rhythms sometimes.
because of your blood pressure?
I think there's anybody who has an internal speed and kind of a energy. I think it depends a lot with just how active or how high tension you could be in your everyday life.
Man, I do fast jams just so I can chill.
That's interesting psychology.
Well, I guess what I mean is I'm a hell of a lot more chill than my music. And I think it's just because I get the chance to get that out in that form, and get on stage.
Yeah, my energy is frenetic. I feel that I'm in too many different places in my head at once, that my energies I have to pull in different ways, and I never want to feel like one thing suffers because of
Yeah, I feel you.
from being, magnetized by 100,000 different things.
Yeah.
It's like a drummer, though. A drummer, they usually pretty either laid back or real pissed off, but the laid back ones, I feel like it's because they exercise that demon when they play.
Yeah, I don't know. There's different modes, though. It's like we all have different modes as producers. In our heads, I think we're all the same. Where we kind of have a slowed down mode, we have a fast mode, and you kind of look at them differently and approach them differently. And I love them both. I love all different modes of making beats and making producing and making music. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I feel like you should, anyone, there should be a mood. There should be something that alters and shifts and changes and takes you somewhere, And I think that the great producer, that's why I like what you do. Obviously, you think in those terms. And, a lot of people do. There's a lot of people that think that are influential to me, just like, I think that's kind of like I think that is kind of one of the things that makes producers great, is if you can navigate all that.
Is there a type of record that you haven't worked on yet? A type of record that you want to work on? An artist maybe that you really loved what they've done or wanted to create something outside of the usual kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've never done a full record with a singer. Something I'm definitely going to do at some point, like in terms of a full album. So I'll do that. I'll do that at some point after this Run the Jewels shit is maybe, Run the Jewels 3 is tucked away. I have a couple of projects sort of in the making. But yeah, I'm doing, working with a band that I really like called The Veils on a couple of jams. Already did something with them. Shout out to Finn, who's one of my favorite singers. And
Great lyricist.
Great lyricist. Just really, this record Nux Vomica was very inspiring to me. And of course, I got the Stepson thing. That's sort of my side project with Nick Diamonds. And but no, I'd love to do that at some point. Do a full record like that. And there's a lot that I think that for me, there's a lot that I haven't done yet.
Would you ever score a film?
Of course, of course. I actually have. Obviously, I did the obviously to me.
The doc?
The Bomb the System.
Never saw.
Yeah, it was a real movie. It was a great little movie, I thought. And I scored that. They basically cut the whole thing to my music, and then they just stepped to me and were like,
You have a copy I can see?
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix, to be honest.
Bomb the System?
Yeah, it was for a while.
Okay.
But I don't have a copy necessarily, but I'll find it. But you can buy it on iTunes too. Or even rent it maybe.
I feel like a cunt.
So I did that, and that was great.
When did you do that?
2004 or 5 or something like that.
Sleep When You're Dead era?
No, before that. And in between the two. And
when you did I'll Sleep When You're Dead, which was the first time I'd ever heard anything like that on a hip-hop album, a rap album. It was the first time I heard Smithereens. I was in a car in Miami, and someone was blasting it, and it sounded like the most futuristic shit I've ever heard in my entire life. I remember being physically just fucked up. I listened to it 6 times in a row because I never expected to hear anything like that.
That was a fun one.
Still one of the most interesting and heavy beats I've ever heard you do.
Yeah, that was an interesting construction. That beat was interesting.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it. I mean, that sort of sound was actually that sort of flanged out sound.
It's like a siren or something.
And made up the rhythm of the drums. was just a drum fill sped way the fuck up and then sampled and filtered out and put like a phase on it, I think, and it was just this weird sort of chopper effect that was happening on it. And as far as the rhythm of the whole thing went, it evolved from a whole other beat that I had. I don't know if you're the same as me, but I'll work on beats for years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I'll just have some shit sitting around for years, and then eventually you forget about it and you come back to it, and it becomes the starting point of something that ultimately doesn't sound anything like it.
Watching you has really helped me and inspired me, and I think really helped me get better as a producer, because you had a quality that I lacked for a while before I started being around you and seeing your work during Run the Jewels too. I had a hard time letting things go, and I would jam things into the ground and try to make one idea work. And I saw you so quickly do something that I had started to do, which is just trust your instincts that it's taking you somewhere better. And you would just leave shit behind. You would just abandon it if it wasn't dope enough. And I remember it helped me pick out what was shit and what was not. It was based off of a reaction if it moved you or not.
Yeah. Sometimes that's a good technique. Sometimes it makes sense to follow the idea through. Sometimes you break through it. But I think following the idea sometimes means that you just don't end up anywhere near where you started.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for me. It's like because producing for me is still a physical thing. It's still it's a thrill. There's a movement to it and there's a pacing to it. It's not just this brainy thing where you sit down and think. There's a physicality to it, and you kind of just keep moving, and it's one of the things that's always been like that for me. My shit will always change if in my head it doesn't give me that feeling like this is it,
Right.
And sometimes I think people have been frustrated earlier in my career working with me because that's the way I do it. So they might come in the next day and have a completely new beat.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm just like, look, this is just better.
Yeah.
And to them, they're like, but I was used to the first one.
That's when I got to the place with Oracle Lies on my album, and I had that in mind. I said, fuck this version, do another one. Fuck this version, do another one. And I kept doing it until it felt right. And it was something I was trying to break away from the fear of just trying to make one idea work. Like the song's still on my album I've had for 8 or 9 years. And 8 or 9 probably different versions.
I mean, I've gotten to the point where I must have, there's years and years and years of hard drives that they're just in storage that just have, must have thousands of attempts at different things, to the point where organization is an issue in my life, But I also think that that if you start getting too attached to shit in your music making, let's say you've got one version of something and you start getting too obsessive about filing things or really caring, then then you have the tendency to just be stuck in the past a little bit.
The creative juices stop. They just stop. Especially in the studio when you're trying to get a sound and it's just taking the left brain shit doesn't work well in the studio. And I've gotten in trouble with finding fucking beats on my computer because I just don't.
There's shit that I literally just will never find again.
Where did I put that shit?
Yeah, it's just gone.
Web.
No hacker could ever find it, no matter how talented.
Piece that shit together.
There's whole shit. I feel like, don't you ever feel like there's I feel like I must have lost a good solid album's worth of shit. A good album,
Yeah, absolutely. I remember we sat down when you first started working with me for my album. You sat down and we just went through some of the beats with me that I've had, older beats, and you go, what the fuck? And it was just all stuff that's been years old, but it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things. Probably thousands if we're talking about beats. Songs I've written for me, it's different. Have you ever recorded outside the United States?
Yeah, I recorded outside the United States several times. Several times, a handful of times. A couple of times, 2 or 3 times in London. We did a few weeks. We did about a week in Porto.
And I have not been to Porto.
Neither had I. We had a week off there. Well, we had 2 shows on either end of the week, and festivals. It was amazing.
What's the vibe like there?
It's incredible. I mean, Porto is like, it's hard to describe, but I don't know enough about it to really describe it accurately, but I would say it's a beautiful European city. It's warm, and the people are warm, and there's a lot of great sort of just visually, it's really amazing, but also it's just got a good vibe in general. They're happy to see people, you know, it's you know, to a degree, I think that they might have had some hard times. I think they got pretty hit, like when the economy kind of tanked.
Yeah.
But it was great, man. I would honestly stay there for a couple of weeks, month or something, if I got the chance. There's a studio out there that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's cheap as fuck.
Fuck the law, they can eat my dick, that's word of pimp. I don't fuck with or talk like all these fucking imps. Stop violent, give a fuck if you deny it, kids. You can all run naked backwards through a field of dicks. Fuck the world, don't ask me for shit, that's word of big. I dreamt we own the world, but I've woken up and it don't exist. Soak it in and need no assist. Can't slap my wrist and don't owe you shit. Trust me, I'm a doctor, do operate. I'm a post for raise a bit.
Tiptoe on the track like a ballerina. Ski mask in the Pontiac Catalina. It's obese female opera singer. You can run the jewels or lose your fingers. Me and LP got time to kill, got folks to kill, on overkill. He hanging out the window, I hold the wheel. One black, one white, we shoot the kill. Let him fuck one life about to be repealed.
What's your favorite place to tour?
My favorite place to tour. I really like touring North America.
Patriotic answer.
No, it's true though. I mean, it's great to see the you know, it's great. You get some amazing experiences touring in Europe and touring in Australia and touring and, but you know, if I had to be realistic, I'm answering your question based on some practicalities. Like, my favorite place to tour would be the place that was like that's sort of the least punishing on my mind and body.
Right.
And that's North America, because you can jump in the whip and travel around the country, and you don't have to go through mad border crossings, or you're not flying, and you're not like, you know, it's after 14 months of touring. I'm really glad that I've gone to all these places, but I'm glad to be back on a tour that's, I don't know, I'm just glad to be back on a bus tour in North America.
Is this the longest tour you've ever been on?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
What's the longest tour you've ever been on?
I've been on tours for 2 months straight.
No, I mean years.
Oh, you mean the full?
Yeah, the full.
I thought you meant just this section.
No.
Yes.
This is the longest.
This is the longest I've ever toured a record. I mean, apart from, say, Company Flow, which I probably toured a little bit every year for a bunch of years. Right. And then, you know, I mean, I've been touring really since Company Flow.
Yeah.
But this is the longest that I've ever worked and toured for one record release. We're coming up on a year at the Detroit show. The last show of this tour is the anniversary.
Of Run the Jewels 2?
Of Run the Jewels 2.
See that? See that? Because it was right around Halloween last year when we did, or it was on Halloween when we did Letterman. Right?
Was it? Oh yeah, that's right. It aired on Halloween. We recorded it the day before.
See that? Wow. So it's a good year. It's a great year. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you. Shit, I haven't even had a minute to think about it.
Yeah.
I've just been running around, which is great. I mean,
That's how it is. I have people on my side that say, "Can you just enjoy one of your days?" I'm like, no.
Not yet. I mean, you know, I enjoy work. I enjoy working. Oh wait, this is cool. The vibe inside the studio is one thing, but how does the geographical location of where you record influence the music you make? Do you like to go somewhere else, or do you like to be in a familiar place?
That's good.
I think we both like to go elsewhere now, right? I mean, shit, I make music in my apartment.
Me too.
I have a room, but somewhere else.
Making an event out of it.
Making an event out of it is a smart thing. That's changed my life.
Yeah.
I never did it until I started doing my record, Cancer for Cure.
I never did it until the Beyoncé shit, but I had never really known what. I was super intimidated when I first went into those environments.
Yeah, that must have been crazy. You just got plopped out of your life and thrown into the Beyoncé.
Yeah, into headphone making music, into studios with speakers that are twice the size of me. It's crazy. But after that, I knew that the experience it's great. The experience of going to different places and finding, different places to find vibe and recording, and you did that in an excellent fashion.
It changed everything for me. Once I could get out of I used to just make records in my apartment, and that would take years because, I don't know, it was I couldn't really tell you why, but when I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna bounce out of here for a couple of weeks and just isolate myself, that was when I started making the most music.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it.
Same here.
Why didn't I just do that years ago? Why didn't I just build? It never occurred to me, really, to be honest. But now I like going elsewhere. I do.
I'm making it a point now to go to every vibey studio I've ever wondered about. I'm trying.
You've been to some crazy studios. What were some of the studios that you recorded this record at?
I recorded a big bulk of this record and all of Motorcycle Jesus in Brooklyn, in the south of France at a studio called La Fabrique, Rancho de la Luna in Joshua Tree, great rock studio. Sneaky upstate, where you did Run the Jewels too, and you did Cancer, and you introduced into my life, and in LA, I think are all the places.
In the you did a bunch in the Autolux studio.
Yeah, Autolux's studio. We finished their record too.
And you produced the Autolux record.
I did.
Same time you were doing your record.
Yes.
That was crazy. I remember being there. I remember being in LA and like 1 minute you were doing your record, and I came to LA and you were mid into producing the Autolux record, and you did the Twigs record. Yes. You've had on the low a very, very, very busy year.
I haven't stopped. Yeah, I haven't stopped. It's heavy. I haven't stopped. The Autolux record we would record them during the day, and then I would work during the night, or we would flip, and we would just do both simultaneous 24-hour days. I love those times. I love the experience of staying up all night and making music. It's just, I live for that shit.
I want to get to the point where I'm just waking up like with my slippers and walking to the curb to get a paper. There's a little dog barks from a bush in the perfectly manicured neighborhood that I've never lived in. I just want to become an old suburban dad. I'm working on it. I'm gonna see what happens. It'll never happen for me. It'll never happen. In the meantime, I'm just gonna run around like a maniac. Do you ever picture yourself that? You ever sit there and just picture yourself like, hey, I wonder what I'm gonna look like in 20 years?
No. I thought I was thinking about the suburban image.
I'm kidding. I don't want any of that.
I was just thinking about the paper suburban boxes. I do think about 20 years from now. And
what do you think? Mountain, desert, sea?
It depends on how fucked the coastlines get. There's not look, man, I'm not trying to be a downer or a bummer. I'm just being realistic.
Do you find it? I think you do. I think I know the answer to this question. Do you find it slightly thrilling that we're going to see probably the end of our society in our lifetimes?
I mean, yeah. I'm too fucking curious to I'm too curious for how. I mean, we're not doing ourselves any favors, and we're just, as a species, as a whole, we're just kind of still being wasteful and not stopping, and I'm just as much to blame as anybody else.
We're absolutely, there's nothing stopping the inevitable.
Yeah.
So, but, until...
I think it's not...
It was always something that seemed like it would happen in the far future, but now it's just like, yeah, it's probably going to get pretty bad.
I heard a guy in the elevator in Texas say, it was the other day, it's 85 degrees outside. He said, it's so fucking hot and it's October. And in my head I thought, well, it's just hot in October now.
Yeah.
It's just hot in October. And it's not a thrill as much as it is curiosity. Because the humans always try to figure out how to get out of this jam.
You think you're gonna survive it?
I don't think any.
Are you gonna be one of the hill people? Like, are you gonna escape to the woods?
I'm gonna bunk up in a storm shelter somewhere. probably was
I figure the first nuclear weapon fired, I just want to be in that city. You know?
Really?
Just take me out. Yeah, I don't want to, you know, it's like, come on. You know? I mean, first of all, a nuclear bomb has got to be the easiest way to die.
Easiest way out.
You know?
I mean, this is dark.
Got to be the easiest way.
This is fucking dark.
Yeah, if it's going to set off like that, then I want to just get out on the first wave.
Sure.
I don't want to see, you know, all my, you know, everyone get cancer and shit and die slowly from radiation poisoning.
It's a noble way to go out.
I mean, look, I'll take being on a different continent.
Yeah, you know, it's, if anything happens in the way that our imagination could, you know, create a bunch of different scenarios, nothing's going to be funny or great or fine. It's just, it is what it is. And I don't even pretend like I know what we could do to ourselves. So if it's a bomb, if it's a, Jesus Christ.
Just edit it out, man. You can't handle the truth, B.
And that's it for this edition of the Talkhouse Music Podcast. Thanks to Boots and LP for recording the conversation, and to our producer-engineer Ellie Einhorn for making it into a podcast. For more Talkhouse Music podcasts, by all means visit our SoundCloud page or subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes. And to read smart, notable musicians writing about new music, please do visit thetalkhouse.com/music.